Now we have the Senior Software Engineer of Cevo Australia, and that's Mridul Khanal. So I'd like to welcome you to the stage. Well, at least to the PPT computer where you can take the pointer and the microphone. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm Mridul. Today, I represent Cevo here today. What does Cevo do? We normally do DevOps, automation and software delivery, consulting, team building, team enablement, and delivery for our clients. Why are we here today? Because of this buzzword, continuous integration, delivery, deployment. I read actually a very nice comic strip today before I came here. The strip said, it had two project managers. One of them says, I've got this new project and I need to deliver it on time and on budget. And the other guy says, but we've never had done that before. And he's like, no, we're going to do it this time. I'm sure, we're 100% sure that we're going to get this done this time. And what different are you doing? It's like, nothing. We're just going to get it done, right? And then I've been on the other side of it a lot. Like, I've been the guy who's been asked, what different are you doing? And then earlier I didn't have an answer. Then slowly, as part of my work, I got to know a few things. Few people asked me a few questions. I'm going to ask those questions here today, and probably you'll realize what I've found. First thing, we do a lot of development. A lot of failures happen. So if a feature is broken, how do you know about it? You built a feature, spent $50,000 on a feature 6 months back, and it was deployed. It was working on the production, and suddenly it's broken. Do you actually know it's broken? Does your customer call you first, or do you actually know that it's broken and then fix it before the customer gets to call you? What time of day does your product get released, deployed? How many of you have 6 o'clock deployments in the morning or 12 in the night? And how many of you do at 12 o'clock, midday lunchtime? How many deployments happened last week, I'll say last month or last year? So if you deployed something, it's in the production, how do you monitor it? That's the key. You should know what's happened to it, right? If you've got a kid, you should know how he's doing in school. Same thing. What's the turnaround time after you identify a bug in production? A customer calls you, and then he says, hey, I can't get my account balance, right? And you know there's a bug. If you fix it, how long does it take you to take it to production? If I fix it in code, that doesn't mean anything to me, to the business who spent a lot of money on it, right? It should be in production. So if these are the questions, there should be some solution to it. This simple diagram is actually one of the things that helps a lot. The first red part is the CI part. What happens? A developer like me, like you, or one of your colleagues, makes a commit. It's unit tested, or there are various tests, that should run automatically. That's the key, right? You can't expect people to be able to do it manually every time, because they get tired. Sometimes they miss out stuff. Sometimes they forget, right? So what happens? If something is broken, if you broke the feature that was built 6 months back, you get to know immediately, hey, this is the thing you fixed, you've broken, so fix it, right? Immediately it goes red, so you know about it. You go back, you fix it, immediately push it again, and you get the feedback again. So there's no big cycle time between a developer working and then a QA coming back and saying, hey, I found a bug in your code, right? So it happens instantaneously. What that leads to is immediate deployment to other test environments where QAs can now actually try and break the system, right? Check the boundaries of it. So you can have multiple testing environments. So you've got one test environment. You might have other acceptance testing, pre-production environments, and a lot of those. What that gives you is the confidence that whenever you deploy in production, it would work. Because I've deployed it in these environments that are so close to production. Now if I deploy in production, I don't have to worry about it, right? It's not like I need 20 developers or 10 developers to stand by waiting for my big production that was planned 6 months back, and I'm doing it. No, you can release it immediately after it's been tested. Why? Because for a business, if I spend $1 million on a feature, let's say even $10,000 on a feature, it's been built. The developers have built it. The QAs have tested it. But it's not released means there's no benefit. my $10,000 is sitting idle somewhere, not even earning the interest it should have earned, right? And I don't get any benefit out of it. The users don't get to use the features. I don't get revenue out of it. I don't get the impact. I don't get to capitalize the market because of a feature I thought was very important. That's why it should be released very quick. So what's the key here? You've got to test every change immediately. That should happen automatically, right? If it's green means everything's good to go. You deploy into staging environments. If staging environment is all right, deploy it into production. Don't wait. You don't need to schedule any deployment time. You don't need to have a change window as such if you have the confidence that if I deploy, it doesn't break, right? And having these stages, various stages of confidence would actually allow you to deploy. What should you do? You should really, really use some automated tools. You should really monitor what happens. So earlier, we talked about how Dynatrace can help. There are a lot of tools. Dynatrace is doing very good in the market, and they've been helping people identify where's the lag, right? One of the things that you can do, always identify, hey, if I release in the production, it failed, I should know immediately why it failed so that I can fix that immediately. Next time, this does not happen again. To ensure that, we write automated scripts. This is the outcome. We get anytime deployments. We don't have to worry about deployment failure. What if deployment fails? Normally what we do now is we've got two environments. In one, we deploy it, a new server is instantiated, it gets deployed. If it's successful, we switch the traffic to that server. If it's failure, we identify the old server is still serving the old customers. And we fix the problem. We deploy on the new one again. When it's all green, we switch the traffic to the new one. We get a new feature. It doesn't take long. If your monitoring is there, you immediately know what broke. You already had a lot of confidence from all the testing environments anyways. So if there's a bug in the production that you find, for which you don't have to roll back, you can live with it for some time. Why? Because the sometime is a couple of hours. The production, you immediately see there's a bug fix because of the monitoring tools. You immediately know that something has gone wrong. Before a user complains, when the first customer calls the customer care, instead of asking what happened, tells him, yes, sir, we know what's the problem, and we're working on it. Go and have a cup of coffee, and by the time you're done with your coffee, everything would be working, right? Most of the time, we get guaranteed deployments. When it's not successful, we still don't switch. Time to market, that's the key. How many of you have actually invested in building a feature as a developer with your efforts? Or how many of you have actually invested money in developing a feature, and you thought you'd be the first to market, but then some of the competitor came and took the market away? As a developer, I feel very sad when I worked for it, and then actually I didn't get the benefit of it, right? I want to see what I did in the market first before other people. 0 downtime deployments. You had no big maintenance pages like, hey, sorry, we'll be back after 2 hours, right? Nobody wants to see that. If there's an iPhone release and I'm trying to sell one, that's like the biggest buzzkill. Production monitoring. So the benefit is you get to know something's going wrong. Biggest one. So what's important? What's the takeaway here? Minimize manual tasks. This is very important to be done. If you cannot minimize manual tasks, people would be tired. They would forget things. And there would be mistakes. So automate it. There are a lot of tools in the market to help you do that. There's a lot of automation tools. Use one of them. Believe in the strong test automation. If your testing is fragile, you never have the confidence that if I release it, it's going to work. You've got to have automation. And it's not just a job of a QA or a tester. It's a job of the complete team. The developer starts with a unit test, and there's QAs who do their amount of testing. There are environments which automatically test things. Not just testing, you should also automate infrastructure creation. Like you've got to create dev environment, QA environments, testing environments, or probably you've got to create an environment in AWS in Australia region. Probably you're targeting somebody in the US region. You've got to make sure that you can create it on the fly. Suppose you are a SaaS service provider. Suppose you've got like 20 different types of clients. Each client has bought certain kind of things, like certain kind of features from you. and some of the clients haven't. Some of them don't need it, some of them don't want it. How do you guarantee that every client cleanly gets the feature he's asked for every release, right? So very important that you get your infra right and then your configuration right. That's where you're going to go back to the automation. That's it. Suppose it's a peak time, your load increased, suddenly there's a lot of load, and you need another server to handle the load. Can you actually create another server in, say, 5 minutes, or the whole thing in, let's say, even 20 minutes, so that it gracefully handles the load? A manual task would not allow you to do that. This is a very big thing. It doesn't sink in very easily in most of the organizations who just start on this CI/CD field. The biggest reason we've already discussed a lot, that's the confidence, because we don't feel like our deployments can go smooth. But if somebody can show you that I can click and deploy, and so can you when needed, not just the developer, the QA can, the product owner can, maybe with some sanity, then definitely the company would have a confidence and they won't have those processes in place. Just imagine spending 3 days just to get approval right, having an extra employee just to be able to do that. You don't need to do all that. And biggest and never to forget is monitor infra. If you cannot monitor your infra, you'll never have that confidence. You'll never be able to say that, hey, I've deployed something and I'm happy that it's deployed. Right? So that's the biggest takeaways from this. So while doing CI/CD, it's very important. The whole concept of CI/CD is to give you confidence, is to have confidence in the team, which also means minimizing micromanagements. You don't really need people to manage people if you hire smart people, right? Everybody's a smart person anyways. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mridul Khanal of Cevo Australia.